is Alien. Out to Trafford, launching it forward, right-footed, way beyond the halfway. He's going to go from one keeper to the other, from Trafford to Pope, who is in the starting 11. Eddie Howe saying that players of 120 minutes of the weekend and their cup win on penalties against AFC Bournemouth he preferred to rest, which is why Ramsdale isn't in the 11 as perhaps he usually would do for a cup game like this. It's the hero of the penalty shootout against Bournemouth. Here's Gordon on the halfway, switching it out towards the right-hand side. First time ball in towards the area. Joana Visa, City on the flag, took me up, and then it eventually does as Joana Visa took a touch, had a shot on his left foot, which was blazed over the bar. It was a really good opening there for Eddie Howe's side. Joelinton winning it back. Gordon playing it out towards the right-hand side and in towards the possession of Jacob Murphy. Played it in towards the path of Visa. It was tight, but he was just off. Took a touch on his right before composing himself on his left as he had a shot from around about 12 yards out. But it could only sky his effort over the bar. 5 minutes gone here at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Here's Lewis Hall, left-hand side towards the edge of the penalty area. He's defending in this first half. Guimaraes will switch it out towards the path of Miley, being put under pressure by Doku. Now back towards Botman again, following a pass from Malik Chow in towards his path. Botman out to Joelinton, facing the goal he's defending. He's being kept touch tight by O'Reilly, fell towards Joelinton again, who loses out. He's on the ground, and here comes Foden for Manchester City. Out towards Semenyo, edge of the box on this right-hand side. Enters the penalty area with two Newcastle shirts in front of him. Drifts it out in field. Here's Foden out towards the path of Mateus Nunes now. Foden again will play it back towards Kuznov. City now patient in terms of their build-up play. Newcastle committing all bodies back. Here's Doku with two up against him. Left side, edge of the box, Miley and Murphy keeping him company. Back towards the possession of Nathan Ake. Ake towards the path of Kuznov. And now here's Semenyo again on the edge of the area, right-hand side. Gordon up against him. Infield to Kuznov again. 25 yards out. Play back to the path of Max Alien. And now here's Doku. Back to Ake. Bringing it infield from the left-hand side. Now here's Doku once more. Edge of the penalty area. Manages to get the better of his man. Cross goes in towards the near post. Cleared away by Malik Chow. Come back out towards Doku once more. And now O'Reilly 25 yards out for Manchester City. Alien to Kuznov. Kuznov to Semenyo on the right-hand side. Edge of the penalty area for Manchester City. Brings it infield. Gets the better of Anthony Gordon. Here's Semenyo. Play back towards Kuznov. O'Reilly. Kuznov. Now Newcastle just begin to press. Try and withstand the City pressure. Kuznov will fizz it out towards the left, and Doku, good first touch on his right foot. Up against Lewis Miley towards the edge of the penalty. Gets the better of him. Tries to hook it back towards the dead ball line inside the area, but again, cleared in and around the 6-yard box. There's Malik Chow again, who was first to respond for Newcastle United. City throw taken towards the edge of the Newcastle penalty on the left-hand side. Played quickly towards the half and to Kuznov. Now here's Alien towards Nathan Ake. Ake to Jeremy Doku with again Lewis Miley for company. Doku runs rings around him once more. Plays him on the outside and then on the inside and slits the ball through across the face of the area. It nearly fell for Haaland around 6 yards out. Cleared away by Anthony Gordon in the end for Newcastle United. And that was what Manchester City had been waiting the best part of 8 minutes for. It was Jeremy Doku who played the ball infield towards the dead ball line, and it was hooked back in towards the path of Erling Haaland by Bernardo Silva. Took a touch off of Nick Pope en route, and that touch from Pope stopping the ball, finding the Norwegian number 9. And Newcastle United able to eventually clear their lines. 8 minutes gone, and it's been a fast start for Manchester City. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Eddie Howe ended the long wait for domestic silverware for Newcastle United. And their 70-year wait for a domestic trophy when they picked up the Carabao Cup last season, beating Liverpool in the final. As I mentioned, beat Manchester City in this competition a couple of seasons ago. Second leg will take place at the Etihad at the beginning of February. The other semi-final is tomorrow night from Stamford Bridge, Chelsea against Arsenal, 8 o'clock kickoff, and you can listen to that game as well here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service, as well as a full complement of games on the Premier League this weekend. Give you a full roundup of what we've got on offer for you throughout the course of the 90 minutes here. Here's Doku on the left-hand side for City in the middle of the Newcastle United half, with Jacob Murphy for company. Gets on the inside of him but slips as he tries to pass him. Recovered by the Newcastle United number 23. Turning back to goal was Jacob Ramsey, cleared by Chow. Heavy touch from Kushanoff. Gordon couldn't quite intercept. And so here's Kushanoff again in field to the possession of Mateus Nunes. Nico Riley now to Kushanoff. Kushanoff towards Max Allien. He will play it back towards James Trafford between the sticks for Newcastle. Is being hunted down by Visa. Launched it forward, right-footed. And Lewis Hall will watch it go all the way to Nick Pope in the Newcastle United goal. 10 minutes gone here at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0. And you're listening to this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. And opening 10 minutes, which is see Manchester City on top. They've shown the most attacking endeavour, but the first clear-cut chance falling to Newcastle United. And they quickly countered City. And then Yoanna Visa with an opportunity inside the penalty area, blazed it over the bar, but luckily for him the offside flag went up against him. That averted a couple of blushes. But it is Newcastle just beginning to advance into Manchester City territory, but the ball goes out. Lewis Hall thought the throw-in went in Newcastle United's favour. It's going to be a City throw on the right, 10 yards on the edge of Newcastle's half. Newcastle have progressed on all three of their League Cup semi-final ties, the best 100% record in the competition's history. Meanwhile, the holders have only fallen at this stage of the competition twice. Tottenham in 1971-72 and Blackburn in 2002-03. So the record is good for defending champions at the semi-final stage of the Carabao Cup. Here's Nathan Ake out to Doku again on this left-hand side, middle of the Newcastle half. Infield towards Ake once again. We have two Newcastle players up against him, played back, and now here's Kushanoff from Allien's pass towards Semenyo. Edge of the air on the right-hand side, gets on the inside of Gordon, plays it short, left-footed towards O'Reilly. Here's Foden out to Kushanoff again. Semenyo once more, and Anthony Gordon for company once again. Semenyo gets on the inside of him, trying to get that ball in left-footed, but Gordon won't show him inside. Here's Kushanoff towards O'Reilly. He'll play it out towards the path of Nathan Ake. Ake crosses in, drills it in left-footed towards the back post. Left by Gordon, out of play. It will go. I think he may have actually got a touch there, Anthony Gordon. It is going to go for Manchester City corner out on the right. 12 gone, 0-0. First set piece for Newcastle United to defend at St James's Park. He just comes off, just nicks off the bottom of the left, of the right short, shall I say, of Anthony Gordon there. So City with the first corner of the night. It's going to be taken by Phil Foden on this right-hand side. It's going to be a out-swinging delivery on his left foot. And it's fizzed in towards the 6-yard box. Flicked away by Lewis Miley, the first man. Glanced on by O'Reilly as City recover it. Heavy touch from Foden. Newcastle tried to win it back with Guimaraes. Foden towards Ake. Ake towards Doku. Towards the dead ball line, edge of the penalty area, being forced towards the corner flag, up against Botman this time. Doku, cross goes in right footed, glanced away by Chow. Haaland tried to jump and get there, but can only concede a foul inside the Newcastle United penalty area. Anthony Gordon, the player, going down to the deck. Well, it's a lively start from Pep Guardiola's team, who put 10 past Exeter in the FA Cup at the weekend. They award a home tie against either Swinton Town or Salford City, whilst for Newcastle United, they've got one of the most daunting trips in English football right now in the fourth round of that particular competition. Aston Villa at Villa Park in the middle of February. We will announce our live picks for the FA Cup in the next few days or so. We will have coverage all the way through to Wembley in that competition, like we have done in this. Pep Guardiola in a big coat. It's a very cold evening up in the northeast. Temperatures touching 0 degrees Celsius. But just looking at Newcastle's average positions, apart from Yoanna Visa, everybody from a Newcastle persuasion is camped inside their own half so far. That's for Manchester City, apart from James Trafford, who's kind of in the middle of his own half anyway. Pretty much every player is touch tight towards the halfway and just inside the Newcastle half, apart from Jeremy Doku, who's just a little bit higher up on the left-hand side for Pep Guardiola's team. Joelinton out towards Gordon. Newcastle finally get a break of the ball here in the middle of the City half. Gordon travelling towards the edge of the penalty area up against Matheus Nunes. Gets on the inside of him. Now looking at the cross in. He does right for it. Glanced on by Joelinton from in and around the penalty spot, but glanced wide of the right-hand post by a good 3-4 yards. Well, Newcastle finally getting some joy inside the Manchester City half. It was Anthony Gordon with the ball into the box. Glanced on by Joelinton, but that's wide of James Trafford's goal as we approach the quarter of an hour mark here at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 here in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Here's Gordon on the halfway, almost lost out to Harden. Wasn't the best pass back to Botman, but Newcastle do keep it. Here's Miley on the right, plays it forward towards Jacob Murphy. Cross goes in first time, comes off of Nathan Ake, and it's the right hand side, and that's greeted with a left side corner to be taken on the right flank. And it's going to be swung in towards the near post, parried away by James Trafford. Comes back out towards Bruno Guimaraes on the left, up against Semenyo. Will go back to Lewis Miley, who was looking for options. Does find Guimaraes in the end, chests it down, and then shoved to the floor by Doku, fairly in the eyes of the referee. City win it back. Doku towards the half, plays it forward, looking to find Haaland, but the pass on his left foot too heavy, and it's going to be a comfortable take for Nick Pope between the sticks for Newcastle United. Played out towards the halfway on the right, and there's a great ball forward towards Visa, just couldn't quite get the ball in front of him. City regather it midway inside their own half. Here's O'Reilly towards the halfway on the left. O'Reilly play back towards the path of Max Allien. Allien now towards the path of Abdihir Kushanov, who towards the edge of his area on the right hand side, being chased down by Gordon. Back to James Trafford between the sticks. Now turning is Foden, dispossessed inside his own penalty area, but Joelinton deemed to have committed a foul. Foden down clutching his right shin, much to the discrepance of the Newcastle United faithful right behind that goal, but Joelinton's left stud just catching the right boot of Phil Foden there. Really have too many complaints about that one. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 0, and Pep Guardiola having his first chat this evening with the fourth official, who may feel as if he's got a bit of a busy task tonight. Well, here's Allien being put under pressure by Murphy. Ball cleared out. Murphy got a touch. It's going to be a City throw, and he got a little bit of the Manchester City 68 to boot, who finds himself hobbling as he tries to retreat back to position. Jacob Murphy, that is. And Nathan Ake being pulled back by the assistant referee towards where the ball initially went out of play. He tried to gain a good 15 yards, did the Manchester City number 6, who so far have been all over their host this evening. Haaland tried to knock the ball upfield, comes off a Newcastle player. City throw on the left, midway inside the half that they're defending in this opening period. It's going to be Ake to take again. Yeah, Bernardo Silva short. Not really been able to get into the game so far, has Bernardo Silva. Here's Doku, brought down, free kick, Manchester City, and they're edging ever closer towards the Newcastle half. Bruno Guimaraes committing the foul for Newcastle United, the skipper this evening, and a man who very much leads by example in the famous black and white of Newcastle United. Chris Kavanagh has a couple of words for Matheus Nunes, who's not a happy man, the Manchester City number 27. Chris Kavanagh, who recently got promoted to the UEFA elite list of officials, which means that he can now referee in the Champions League and Europa League for the remainder of the season. So many congratulations to him for that. City, who return to Champions League action next week when they head to Norway to take on Bodo Glimt, a game you can listen to live here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. O'Reilly losing out, Joe Linton winning it back high up for Newcastle United, but losing out towards Kushanoff around about 25 yards out from goal. O'Reilly out to Foden, doing well to evade a triangle of Newcastle players in front of him, played out towards Haaland, ball goes out, it's going to be a Manchester City throw on the right hand side, just beyond the halfway here. Eddie Howe issuing out the instructions to his Newcastle United players. O'Reilly plays it back towards Kushanoff, Alien in possession, forward it goes, out to MCINEW, the intended target, glanced on by Lewis Hall, brought down by Joe Linton with a couple in sky blue in front of him, manages to pick out Gordon, who couldn't quite get a comfortable first touch. O'Reilly was then able to clear it out of play. Newcastle throw down the left, 10 yards on the edge of Manchester City territory. 20 minutes gone here at St James's Park in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Hall being shoved to the floor by Phil Foden, and it's going to be another free kick to the home side, who are just beginning to get into the game, having been outmanoeuvred in the opening 10 minutes or so of this contest. We'll play it back towards the path of Sven Botman. Botman getting the better of Foden, playing it infield towards the path of Jacob Ramsey. Here's Malik Chow with two up against him. Does manage to play the pass out to Lewis Miley on the right, and he in turn will now unleash Jacob Murphy. Edge of the penalty area, right hand side, cross goes in and around the 6-yard box, but cleared by Ake, who got in front of Visa. Does come back out to Lewis Hall, who drives towards the edge of the box. One touch too many. City managed to clear their lines. Haaland turns back to goal towards the path of Doku. Two up against him inside his own half. Veers out towards the left, up against Miley on the half. Infield towards Bernardo Silva. Foden turns towards O'Reilly in the centre circle inside his own half for Manchester City. Now to Bernardo Silva again. Silva back to Nico O'Reilly. We'll play it short towards the path of Kushanoff. And now MCINEW back to Kushanoff on the halfway again on the right side. Now Max Alien in possession, and he'll play it back first time towards the path of James Trafford between the sticks. Launches it forward, right-footed to beyond the halfway. Lewis Miley awkwardly winning it back. Didn't quite know whether to head the ball on or go to feet. He kind of got in two minds there, but does keep possession for Newcastle. Now it's worked out to the left and towards Hall, who evades the challenge of MCINEW and Foden, and then clipped by the new Manchester City recruit on the halfway on the left hand side. Newcastle United free kick just inside Manchester City territory as he heads towards the midway point of the first half here at St James's Park. Now Horn was just running and driving down the left hand side, and MCINEW coming in late, clipping him to the surface. Could perhaps feel a little bit fortunate that he didn't find himself in the book for that. Russell was just beginning to manoeuvre for Newcastle, who have a free kick on the left hand side, 5 yards inside Manchester City territory, who keep a high line to around about 25 yards out. It's worked short, looking to find Visa, but he couldn't be beaten for pace up against Kusanov. Bernardo Silva shoved to the floor by Anthony Gordon, and City can get out with a free kick on the right hand side, adjacent towards the penalty spot of the penalty area they are defending in this opening period. Well, Anthony Gordon's been a real live wire for Newcastle United so far this evening, preferred to Harvey Barnes, who is warming up profusely on the near side, and I think he might be coming on in a few moments. I think, quite sure whether somebody's picked up a bit of a knock. Nick Pope is definitely down between the sticks. I can guarantee you Harvey Barnes isn't replacing him. But the Newcastle United number 11 warming up rather profusely, but they may have a problem with their number 1 here. It does give Eddie Howe the opportunity to give out some instructions. Anthony Gordon down, changing his boots. I think there's concerns that maybe he picked up a little bit of a knock in the previous challenge. Pope down receiving treatment. Gives us an opportunity to tell you what else is happening across the Flash Score Live audio commentary service over the next week or so. We'll have the second semi-final of the Carabao Cup between Chelsea and Arsenal tomorrow night from 8 o'clock. And we also have both semi-finals from the Africa Cup of Nations for you. Senegal against Egypt from 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, and then the late game sees Nigeria take on Morocco. We will also have the final for you on Sunday night. That is a 7 o'clock kickoff live here on Flash Score. And then we also have a full complement of games from the Premier League this weekend. We kick off at Old Trafford with a Manchester derby between United and City. 12:30 we get underway our coverage for that. And then the 3 o'clock kickoff sees Chelsea take on Brentford, Leeds against Fulham, Liverpool against Burnley, Sunderland against Crystal Palace, and Tottenham against West Ham. We will also have a full results service from across the EFL, including the Sky Bet Championship for you across those games. And then later on in the evening, our 5:30 kickoff comes from the City ground as Arsenal head to Nottingham Forest. And then on Sunday, we'll have Wolves against Newcastle from 2 o'clock. Aston Villa take on Everton from 4:30. You can listen to both of those games live here on Flash Score. And then Monday night, we round off our Premier League weekend from the Amex as Brighton and Hove Albion take on Bournemouth. Play back underway. Newcastle have it on the right-hand side towards the half, and in the possession of Jacob Murphy, who will play. Sorry, Jacob Ramsey. Miley out towards Chow. Chow to Botman. Botman to Lewis Hall. Hall will play it forward, left-footed, comes off of Semenyo and out of play for a throw into Newcastle United towards the edge of the penalty area that they are defending. In terms of passes in this game, 88 for Newcastle United in comparison to the 143 that that Manchester City have mustered so far. 3 passes for Newcastle inside the final third. By way of comparison, Manchester City have had 32, and they win the ball high up on the pitch here. Mateus Nunes infield, one back though by Jacob Ramsey, who tries towards the halfway. He's got Murphy out to his right, finds him. Ioannivis is in an offside position. That's a trap back here. The ball goes straight in towards his path. Inside the box he goes. He has a shot from an acute angle, and eventually the flag goes up as his effort took a deflection over the bar. He was just too enthusiastic with his one there, Ioannivis, who found himself, well, a good few yards in front of Manchester City central defensive line of Kushinov and Alien. So City with the ball, and it's O'Reilly in possession out towards Kushinov, who's been put under pressure here by Anthony Gordon, who'll play it across in towards the path of Alien again. Now O'Reilly, Alien towards the edge of his penalty area. Interesting turning, struggling to find a way out, and he's bailed out by Bernardo Silva. Silva out towards the path of Mateus Nunes on this right hand side. Forward looking to find Semenyo in the middle of the Newcastle half. Sliding in is Sven Botman to stop his charge forward. He'll go out for Manchester City throw on the right, around about 25 yards out from the Newcastle United goal, and he timed his challenge to absolute perfection, and even Pep Guardiola could acknowledge the challenge put in there. And in fact, the last touch came off of Semenyo. It's going to be a Newcastle United throw. Hall on the left towards Joe Linton. Joe Linton back towards Bruno Guimaraes. Guimaraes towards Chow, edge of the D of the penalty area is defending. Here's Ake winning it back on the half. Infield towards the path of Silva. Here's Nico O'Reilly. Back towards Ake again on this left-hand side to the path of Alien. Here's Trafford, who's been put under pressure by Visa. Alien will get things going again for Manchester City, out towards the half and towards Doku. Doku infield towards Ake. Was looking to find Doku again, but it's recovered by Miley. Here's Bruno Guimaraes on the half for Newcastle United. Out to the possession of Jacob Ramsey, dispossessed. And Manchester City win it back high up the field, looking to thread the ball through in towards the path of Haaland, but it's a free kick to Newcastle, fouled by Doku. Newcastle look to get going quickly, and then when another free kick as they try to advance forward. Nico O'Reilly with a shove on Bruno Guimaraes, much to the annoyance of Phil Foden, who has a little word with Bruno Guimaraes. She finds himself still on the deck, and O'Reilly just barges his right elbow into the right shoulder of Bruno Guimaraes. Can't really be any complaints from a Manchester City perspective there. And Guimaraes back on his feet, wanting to have a couple of choice words with Phil Foden. Here's Sven Botman for the home side, switching it out towards the right. It's recovered by Ake, but it's going to be picked up again loosely by Lewis Smiley. Malik Chow back in towards the possession of Nick Pope between the sticks. Here's Sven Botman again for Newcastle United to Lewis Saul. Will ping it forward left-footed. Was looking to find Joe Linton, but just too high for him. And it's going to trickle all the way towards James Trafford between the sticks for Manchester City. As we head towards the half-hour mark here at St James's Park, Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0. Not really seen too much in terms of clear-cut chances on goal. Manchester City came out all guns blazing, but a bit of a flashpoint here where Joe Linton has taken exception to something that Mateus Nunes has said. And the referee, Chris Kavanagh, just trying to get to the bottom of what's happened here. There's going to be some yellow cards, of that there's absolutely no doubt. Joe Linton being pushed away by his captain, Bruno Guimaraes. And he's going to be the first player in the book. Both him and Nico Riley finding themselves on yellow cards. A bit of a pushing and shoving match going on, and then it just boiled over a little bit. And then Mateus Nunes got involved, and Joe Linton wasn't afraid to take on the two of them. It's just beginning to flare up a little bit here. Past the half-hour mark, O'Reilly and Joe Linton in the book. Goalless between Newcastle United and Manchester City in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. City with a free kick taken by Bernardo Silva long, looking to find MCINEW, headed out by Botman. City throw right-hand side, 15 yards inside the Newcastle United's half. It's going to be Mateus Nunes to take, back towards the halfway, towards the path of Kujanov. Now here's Alien in possession for the visitors, being put under pressure by Visa. Will go out towards Doku on this left-hand side. Doku bringing it infield towards Ake on the half. Foden out to Doku once more, with two Newcastle players up against him. Back to Phil Foden's path once again. And now here's Ali to Antoine Semenyo, being kept company by Lewis Saul. Back infield towards Kusanov again. And now here's Alien to O'Reilly, drifting the ball out towards the left-hand side. Back to Ake again. Here's a brilliant turn for Mateus Nunes, and now plays it out towards Antoine Semenyo on this right-hand side. Edge of the penalty, up against Hall, gets on the inside of him, and then blocked off by Anthony Gordon. Newcastle able to clear their lines, and Lewis Hall gets on his bike to keep hold of possession. Turning past O'Reilly, shoved to the floor, and a free kick to Newcastle United. Bernardo Silva, the guilty party. And Bruno Guimaraes having a chat with the referee, Chris Kavanagh, saying that things are just getting a little bit too physical for his liking. All being upended by a couple. It was Bernardo Silva with the shove that gave away the free kick. But importantly, an opportunity for Newcastle United to get the ball out their half. Ball player back towards Sven Botman, who will clear it upfield, left-footed towards the halfway. Visa looks to play it on, nobody was there. So Kusanov able to cushion it down for City. Forward towards Foden, turning back to goal. Here's Mateus Nunes on the halfway on the right-hand side for City. Kusanov towards O'Reilly again. Mateus Nunes driving down this near side between the two technical areas. O'Reilly switching it out, pinging it left-footed, looking to find Doku. Dinked on by Lewis Miley. Guimaraes gets there before Haaland. Back towards Miley again. Here's Guimaraes in the middle of his half, out to the right it goes, and in towards the possession of Jacob Ramsey, who's looking to feed through Jacob Murphy, but it's one back by Jeremy Doku, who goes down to the ground. Manchester City wanted a free kick, but in the end the decision is a Newcastle United throw, and it goes all the way back to inside their penalty area towards Botman, out towards Lewis Hall. Hall playing it forward, comes off at Antoine Semenyo for a throw into Newcastle United down the left, 25 yards out from the goal that they're defending. Pep Guardiola barking out the instructions in the Manchester City technical area. You get the sense that he's going to be rather animated in the City dressing room come the break. It was a really positive start, but the game's just fizzed out a little bit over the last 10-15 minutes or so, and you get the sense of the atmosphere here at St James's Park. It's always electric here under the lights, but there is a sense of tension just beginning to murmur around this famous old ground. It was sort of a brilliant turn to get past Semenyo. Guimaraes out towards the path of Ramsey, unleashes Murphy on the right, edge of the penalty area up against Nathan Ake. Murphy, we're going to get on the inside of him, goes round him on the outside, crosses the ball in towards the near post, where Visa was making a run towards the 6-yard box, but it's comfortably held by James Trafford between the sticks for Manchester City. 10 minutes to go in this first half here at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0. You're listening to the Carabao Cup here on the Flash Score Live Audio Commentary Service. Semi-final first leg action here from the North East. Here's Ramsey for Newcastle United up against Ake. Plays it out towards the path of Murphy. Murphy getting the better of Silva, but then runs into traffic, runs into the City number 6 Ake. Will clear the ball out for a Newcastle throw, right hand side, 25 yards out from the Manchester City goal. Back towards the halfway it goes, towards Botman, and now Lewis Hall on the left. Plays it forward to Anthony Gordon, who is being kept touch tight by Mateus Nunes. Botman infield towards Guimaraes in the centre circle, turning and playing it out to Murphy on the right hand side, 25 yards out from goal, being put under pressure by Doku. We'll play it back towards Miley. Miley infield towards Guimaraes. Guimaraes bringing it infield, hauls the option short, finds him, tried to play it out. His pass comes off as Silva, but only as far as Chow. Miley back to Chow on the halfway. Now here's Sven Botman in the centre circle, through the middle towards Joelinton, out to the left and to Anthony Gordon. Patient build-up play this from Newcastle United. Gordon getting the better of Nunes, who comes in late, goes down to the ground as Gordon. Free kick to Newcastle and a yellow card for the Manchester City right back, Mateus Nunes, the second City player to find himself in the book in this first half. Gordon down on the ground and clutching his right knee. But Newcastle United with a free kick in a rather advanced position on this left-hand side. Nunes putting his thumbs up, and he knew as soon as the referee blew his whistle he was going to find himself in Chris Kavanagh's notebook. Sliding challenge, caught Gordon late as he was driving away on that left-hand side for the Magpies. So 37 minutes gone. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 here on the Flash Score Live Audio Commentary Service. It's going to be Bruno Guimaraes to take this free kick. It's going to be a right-footed delivery on the left-hand side. Phil Foden, the only player in the Manchester City wall. Guimaraes' free kick, taken short towards the near post. It was awkward for Nunes and can only concede a corner out on this left side. And a chance here for Newcastle once again from a set piece to try and break the deadlock. They've been outplayed for large swathes of this first half, but just beginning to work themselves back into proceedings here. The big bodies loiter around the back post. Corner to be taken on this left-hand side. Swung in towards that back stick, punched away by Trafford, comes back out to Gordon. Heavy touch cleared away by Manchester City. Hall skies the ball up in the air. It's going to be one back by Doku on the half, who heads it on, but it's a heavy touch and recovered by Newcastle United and Ramsey. Lewis Hall out to the path of Nick Pope, who then thrashes it forward towards the halfway. Ake couldn't quite keep a hold of it for City. Joelinton plays it out towards the right-hand side and towards the path of Lewis Miley was the intended target. It's going to be a throw into Newcastle United. Jacob Murphy with the chip over the top, looking to find him. Sven Botman towards the edge of his own penalty area, out to Lewis Hall on the left. Being chased down by Antoine Semenyo. Here's Botman again, played forward towards the half. Here's Visa turning on the halfway and does very well, plays it forward, but there wasn't a pass there. Gordon was looking for it on the left, and it was a heavy pass through the centre, thinking that there was somebody there. And meat and drink for James Trafford in the Manchester City goal. City, who have knocked out the League Cup holders the last two times they faced them. They beat Birmingham City 2-0 in September 2011 and Liverpool 3-2 in December 2022. They've progressed from each of their last 6 League Cup semi-final ties, and they've gone on to win the trophy on each occasion. The last time they fell at this hurdle was in the 2011-12 season, when they lost out to the eventual winners Liverpool, who beat Cardiff City in the final at Wembley. Newcastle United win themselves a free kick on the half. It's going to be Lewis Hall to take on the left-hand side as we approach the final 5 minutes of this opening period here at St James's. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0. Hall's free kick in towards the area, but a comfortable catching practice in the end for James Trafford, who launched it for the first time, looking to find Doku. Hall rather awkwardly manages to win it back for Manchester City, but Doku was making life rather difficult for him. Chow plays it out towards Lewis Smiley, right hand side, now advancing towards the halfway for the home side. Back towards Ramsey. Here's Lewis Smiley once more for Newcastle United. Here's Bruno Guimaraes, always at the heart of things for Newcastle. And Botman loses out, but it's calmly recaptured by Malik Chow, but then the pass forward only finds Foden on the half, who drives down the centre here for Manchester City. He's got 3 blue shirts in front of him, but Lewis Hall more immediately keeping him company. Here's O'Reilly out to Ake, infield towards Foden, out to Kushinoff on this right hand side. Kushinoff looking to find Bernardo Silva. First time he's really been able to get in this pocket of space. Infield towards Foden, 25 yards out. Back about 20 yards to Alien. Here's Bernardo Silva once more for Manchester City. Foden infield to Silva once more. Silva playing it out towards Semenyo. Edge of the penalty area on this right-hand side for Manchester City. Here's Kushinoff again towards the possession of Alien. Alien to Kushinoff once more. City patiently building play up. Here's Semenyo once more towards the edge of the box, up against Gordon once again. Foden turning, playing it out towards Nathan Ake. Ake plays the ball in towards the area, only hard cleared by Botman. Haaland was lurking, but Newcastle do manage to clear their lines. Ramsey out towards the path of Murphy on this right hand side. Ioannis makes a run forward, but he's got a sea of blue in front of him to Jacob Murphy, and it's run back well by Doku in and around the half. Here's Phil Foden towards the path of Mateus Nunes. Foden again just slowing play down towards the halfway here for Manchester City. 3 minutes to go in this first half. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 here in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Not really too much to report from this game so far at St James's. It's been rather cagey. A typical first leg tie where neither team, shall I say, really wanted to come out and take risks. City got out on the front foot, but kind of been rather reserved since the opening 10 minutes where they really did flurry. All going out to Jacob Murphy, but Ake is going to comfortably recapture it for Manchester City. Back towards the path of James Trafford. Just over 2 minutes to go until the break. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg on Flash Score. The ball played out towards Semenyo, chesting it down right-hand side in the middle of the Newcastle half. Advancing towards the edge of the box now. 2 up against it. Semenyo to the dead ball line. Hooks it back towards the back post. Haaland couldn't get there. Newcastle clear their lines with Lewis Mine recaptured and in towards the path of Nathan Ake. Here's Nico O'Reilly again here for Manchester City. Here's Foden. Foden out now towards Semenyo. Semenyo infield to Foden once again. Looked to open up for a second, but plays it short to O'Reilly. He was looking to find Haaland edge of the box. Newcastle managed to clear their lines. Here's Kushinoff again on the halfway for Manchester City. Infield to Nico O'Reilly. Here's Nathan Ake now. City would love to break the deadlock right on the cusp of half-time, because if Newcastle get in level, I think they will be the happier of the two for that fact. Here's Foden out towards Kushinoff now. Antoine Semenyo infield for Manchester City, number 5. Adakir Kushinoff out towards the possession of Alien. Ake towards Doku, being put under pressure by Jacob Murphy here. Both him and Ramsey causing him problems. Here's Ake towards Doku again on this left-hand side. Edge of the penalty area for Manchester City. Doku managing to get the better of both the Jacobs, flashes the ball in towards the box, shutted down by Hall, and he couldn't quite clear it away from danger. It's going to go out for a Manchester City corner on the right as we enter the final 30 seconds of normal time in this opening period at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 here in the Premier League on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Hall conceding the corner and now looking to defend it for the defending Carabao Cup holders. Jacob Murphy finds himself down towards the edge of the Manchester City penalty area, clutching the back of his left knee. Look as if he's clutching his left hamstring, and if that is the case, then this is terrible news for Newcastle. It's been a live wire down the right-hand side for Eddie Howe's team this evening as we enter stoppage time at the end of the first half. 1 minute to be added on at the end of the opening period here. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0 here in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service, and no chances being taken. Harvey Barnes is going to come on here for Jacob Murphy, and this does look like a real concern for the Newcastle United number 23. Barnes getting himself ready, and Newcastle United not wanting to make a substitution from a set piece, but being left with no choice whatsoever. And most likely they're going to have to defend this set piece with 10. Murphy making his way off. Barnes is stripping himself off. And the evening for Jacob Ramsey has come to rather... So Jacob Murphy, shall I say, has come to a rather premature close after what was a lively opening 45 minutes for him. Harvey Barnes will see out the remaining semi-final. half, Manchester City finding themselves on the front foot. Ireland playing Foden forwards and then shoved to the deck by the Newcastle United captain. And so an early chance here at the beginning of this second period from a set piece for Manchester City. Bernardo Silva just allowing Phil Foden the freedom to play this ball in. Having a conversation as to how City should work this. Newcastle keeping a high line towards the edge of the penalty area. Foden goes short to Silva, out to Doku on this left side. Edge of the box, gets inside, cross goes in, right footed, cleared away by Newcastle, flicked away by Lewis Miley. Ball contested up in the air, but Joelinton brings it down and gets it away. Out towards Guimaraes, gets the better with Nunez, but one back by Kushinoff on the half. Antoine Semenyo was looking to get going on the right hand side, but does win a throw-in for City. Lewis Hall unable to keep the ball in play, having got a nick of it as Semenyo tried to play it towards the edge of the penalty area. Ball goes back towards the half, and now here's Bernardo Silva for Manchester City, and it goes towards Jeremy Doku, driving down this left-hand side with Harvey Barnes and Lewis Miley in front of him. Back towards Ake. Ake in turn finds Foden, and along the centre is Nico O'Reilly towards Semenyo, edge of the area on this right-hand side. Lewis Hall for company, play back towards Kushinoff. Here's O'Reilly again for Manchester City. Here's Ake. Ake infield to O'Reilly once more, and Newcastle penning their visitors back towards the halfway, and in fact the ball's going to go all the way towards Trafford between the sticks. Being put under pressure by Visa, out towards the path for Bernardo Silva, space to run into on the halfway, down the centre, plays it out to Semenyo on the right, up against Lewis Hall and Anthony Gordon. Back to possession of Nunez. O'Reilly, Foden in the centre, out to the left and towards Doku, edge of the box here for Manchester City, up against Miley. Doku, back it goes. Ake, cross goes in, left footed, and it's awkwardly played back towards the path of Nick Pope. Mateus Nunes got a flick on for Manchester City, and it almost trickled past Nick Pope. It was very awkward, it didn't have much power behind it, but I think one of his defenders in front of him he thought was going to do it. Then it came off for Gordon, he got a deft touch to it, but Pope able just to keep it out between the sticks. For Newcastle United, here's Chow awkwardly inside his own penalty area, not allowed to turn by Haaland, and because of that pressure, Manchester City win a throw-in high up the pitch, left-hand side towards the edge of the Newcastle United penalty area. Doku to take, will play it back towards the path of Ake. Ake in turn will find Alien on the halfway. Here's O'Reilly, Kushinoff out to his right. That's exactly who he finds, and now here's Antoine Semenyo. Infield towards Nico O'Reilly, fizzes the ball in. Bernardo Silva made a run towards the box. On back by Newcastle, Barnes to Miley. Pope will launch it forward, awkward from Guimaraes. Joelinton loses out, but wins a free kick, having been upended by Mateus Nunes. Newcastle take it quickly, out to the left side it goes, driving is Gordon in the middle of the City half, now advancing towards the edge of the box. Cross goes in, right footed towards Visa, glass header! Oh, it's a brilliant save for James Trafford, just to palm the ball away, but Newcastle win it back inside the area with Barnes. Barnes, shot again off the post, and that's two chances within the space of 30 seconds for Newcastle United. And Yohan Visa with a brilliant glance header, but James Trafford matches that effort with a fantastic save. Ball goes in from Gordon on the left side, right footed towards Yohan Visa, who from in and around the 6-yard box glances the ball on. He rises higher than Ake, and then James Trafford palms the ball away, and then Guimaraes with the second chance on his right foot, curled effort coming off the left hand post. Newcastle with two chances in the space of 30 seconds, the closest really that either side had come at any point in this contest. 5 minutes gone on this second half, and maybe this Carabao Cup semi-final tie has finally sprung to life. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 0. Jacob Ramsey down, clutching his head on the halfway out on this left-hand side. He's already seen his colleague down the right, Jacob Murphy, come off injured. and it was after a collision between him and Jeremy Doku, who was coming in full speed at Ramsey, and just catches the back of his head with his elbow. And so the Newcastle United number 41 receiving a bit of treatment from the Newcastle United physios. 51.5 minutes gone. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0. Newcastle, who have won each of their last 9 matches in this competition, excluding shootout victories. Only Liverpool with 11 between 1994 and 95, and Arsenal with 10 between 1987 and 88 have won more games in this competition consecutively. So they don't need to win tonight. A draw would put them in play going to the Etihad, although I'm sure they'd love a lead to take to one of the most difficult places in English football to get anything from. We're just having a look on our monitor at the save from James Trafford. Leaped like a salmon at full stretch and just managed to palm it away with his right hand. And this is the shop window for James Trafford to get himself on the plane to North America in the summer. I'm sure Thomas Tuchel, the England manager, will be watching on with some interest. And whilst Jordan Pickford won't be dislodged between the sticks for England, there is a bit of a battle lining up as to who his number 2 is going to be. Here's Doku, left-hand side edge of the box here for Manchester City up the other end. Gets the better of Barnes, plays the ball in to the back post, and Manchester City find themselves in front, and it's Antoine Semenyo on the score sheet. There was controversy over the cup rules which allowed him in to even play tonight. But the City number 42 has scored 2 goals in 2 games since arriving from Bournemouth, and Manchester City had their noses in front. 53 minutes gone, Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. Doku on the left-hand side, getting the beating of Barnes, getting on the inside of him, played the ball across the penalty area on the floor. There was a touch towards the near post from Bernardo Silva, which helped it towards the path of Antoine Semenyo, who anticipated the ball going his way, and then from around about 2 yards out, on his left foot, drilled it low past Nick Pope in the Newcastle United goal. First blood Manchester City in this Carabao Cup semi-final tie. And Antoine Semenyo continuing his perfect start in the sky blue colours of Manchester City. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1, and for Antoine Semenyo, 2 games played and goals in both of them. Although it's fair to say, without disrespect, Newcastle United is a little bit of a step up in class in comparison to Exeter City at the weekend, in which City managed to put 10 past. And for Newcastle United, who had the best couple of opportunities in this game a couple of moments prior, have now got work to do in this Carabao Cup semi-final tie. City launched the ball forward, glanced on by Botman, played back by Lewis Hall in towards the path of Nick Pope, who'll play it forward towards the halfway, glanced on by O'Reilly, cushion off back towards the path of James Trafford between the sticks. Trafford launching it forward right-footed, beyond the halfway it goes, out towards Antoine Semenyo on this right-hand side, who's driving at Lewis Hall here, back towards the halfway it goes. Nico O'Reilly for Manchester City, to Phil Foden. O'Reilly again, now towards Phil Foden. Foden to Cushion off to Semenyo. City happy to play the ball around on the halfway here. Foden fizzing it out towards the left. Doku, good first touch, keeps control of it inside the box here, gets on the inside of Lewis Hall, has a shot blocked by the Newcastle 47, comes back out to O'Reilly. Ake 25 yards from goal. Doku again on this left hand side, causing Newcastle problems. Doku against Miley, play back to Ake. Ake in turn finds O'Reilly again. Here's Foden, He's looking to find Silva, but one back by Newcastle United. Ball down by Bruno Guimaraes. Guimaraes towards Barnes, who scored twice for Newcastle in their 2-1 victory against Manchester City in the league earlier on this season. Here's Trafford. Here's Pope. Clearing the ball away. One back on the half, and Newcastle bringing it forwards here with Lewis Hall. Out towards Anthony Gordon on the halfway on this left-hand side. Bringing it infield for Newcastle United. Ramsey out towards Miley. Space to run into on this right-hand side for Newcastle United. But being upended by Doku, who's been so lively going forward, but also causing Newcastle problems defensively too. Miley out towards Barnes, back to Lewis Miley again. And now Malik Chow towards the possession of Sven Botman. Botman finds Hall. Botman inside his own half here for Newcastle United. 57 minutes gone. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. Antoine Semenyo's goal in the 53rd minute, the difference between the two sides in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Here's Anthony Gordon playing the ball in field towards Johan Visa inside the area for Newcastle United. He takes a shot, deflected. Joey Linton has a poke on his left foot, blocked by O'Reilly. Comes back out to Guimaraes, into the box. He's going to strike one. Low jaw on his right foot, but straight down the throat of James Trafford in the Manchester City goal. It was a decent attempt for Guimaraes, who brought it down on his right foot, edge of the D. Low drill effort on his right foot, but just didn't quite have the power to catch out James Trafford. It was straight at the Manchester City goalkeeper in all truth. Joe Linton glances it on the halfway for Newcastle. Now in towards the path of Anthony Gordon. Gordon on the halfway. Driving at and getting the better of Mateus Nunes, but does manage to win it back second time. The City 27, who will play it straight back to Trafford. Trafford Shaw, and oh my goodness me, it was almost a moment of calamity there for Bernardo Silva of all players, who played it back but too heavily towards the path of James Trafford. Luckily, his pass was a little bit wayward and he's only conceded a corner as opposed to an own goal. Well, that was almost a moment to forget for the Manchester City captain. Newcastle United will corner out on this right-hand side. It's a bit of a gift really for the Magpies. It's going to be Lewis Hall to take. It's going to be a left-footed outswinging delivery from this right-hand side for Newcastle. 58.5 gone. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1 here on Flash Score. Played in towards the back post and it's still whirling around the area, but it's just bundled out of play. It was Guimaraes with the initial contact, and then Botman managed to get ahead to it as well for Newcastle. And then it was pinballed around the penalty area, and the last touch coming off a Manchester City player. Out of play for a Newcastle corner on the left. It just comes off the head of Antoine Semenyo, out for another corner. Guimaraes to take this time on the left. It's played straight towards the goal line, punched away by Trafford between the sticks of Manchester City. Doku looking to clear, but it's brilliantly won back by Lewis Hall, who then staves off the challenge of Doku. It's going to be a throw into Newcastle, and Lewis Hall having a couple of words with Pep Guardiola. Marley to take on the halfway. City are going to prepare a couple of changes. Pep Guardiola seemingly seen enough to create some opportunities for substitutes. Thierry Reinders coming on as we head towards the hour mark here at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1 in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. Here's Marley on the halfway on the right-hand side. Two in front of him. Ake recovering it for City. One back by Doku on the half, who's sandwiched between two. Loses out, but recovered by Bernardo Silva. Doku back towards Ake on the halfway for City. Foden back towards Ake once more. And now here's Kushinov, managing to play it forward towards O'Reilly. O'Reilly driving towards the edge of the air, plays in Haaland. Haaland inside the box here for City. Back towards Foden. Struck it first time, left footed, came off a Newcastle player. And Thiaw with the final touch. We'll see it go out of play for Manchester City. Corner on the left. Reinders coming on. Rico Lewis coming on. And Rodri also coming on here for Manchester City. Pep Guardiola bringing in the changes. Nico O'Reilly, the first player to be replaced with Rodri, like for like switch there. I feel like that's one of those pre-planned substitutions from Pep Guardiola. So Rodri coming on to get half an hour's worth of minutes here for Manchester City. Gianni Reinders also coming on. Phil Foden coming off. Foden being replaced by Reinders, and the final change, we'll see Rico Lewis come onto the field of play, and it's going to be Matheus Nunes who is going to be withdrawn for the Manchester City number 82. Just under half an hour to play. City with a corner, leading 1-0 in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg, having just made 3 changes. On the left-hand side it is, and it's going to be swung in by Reinders. His first kick of the ball, and the ball goes into the back of the net, and guess who it is again? It's Antoine Semenyo with his second goal of the evening. He was left unmarked, best part of 10 yards out, glass header into the bottom right-hand corner. St James's Park is silenced. Manchester City have a 2-0 lead in this Carabao Cup semi-final, and Antoine Semenyo is slotting in beautifully at Manchester City. 2 games played for the Manchester City number 42, and he's already got 3 goals. And what a first contribution for the evening for Gianni Reinders. His corner goes into the penalty area. Semenyo with a deft to touch it in towards the bottom right-hand corner to double the Manchester City lead. Left to touch from Johan Vita, and then he does the rest. City 2 up, Semenyo with 2 on the night, 10 minutes apart. And Manchester City are really beginning to take charge of this Carabao Cup semi-final now. Although there is a check here for potential offside. VR in operation from the semi-final stages onwards in this year's competition. And I think they're having a look at Erling Haaland, who was obstructing the goalkeeper, and they're wondering whether that obstruction came from an offside position. The VAR are having a look at that. Erling Haaland is the player that we're getting on our monitor, and he's looking on rather pensively. Now, there is a shade of sky blue just in front of both Pope and Malik Chow, who's the last defender back for Newcastle United. Check still ongoing. We're having a look at pause pictures from the VAR monitor as the ball goes into the 6-yard box, and they're zooming in on the positioning of Erling Haaland. Kavanagh getting instructions in his ear from his colleagues over at Stockley Park, and the check's still ongoing. And they really are zooming in now to the point where the picture's just beginning to become somewhat distorted. And there is a real conversation being had in the VAR hub. Eddie Howe looking on, hopeful that technology is going to save his side from going 2 down. And the longer this check's going on, I think the better news it will be for Eddie Howe's team. And the longer it goes on, the more nervous Antoine Semenyo is going to get. Well, they're taking checking goal for possible offside. Now they're zooming in on Antoine Semenyo. Now, there's no doubt about him being in an offside position. I just wonder whether they're looking at possibly something else. His elbow is high. I don't know whether there's a potential handball. I don't think there was. This check, I have to say, is taking a little while now, and I'm just wondering how far back, or how far zoomed in, shall I say, they're trying to look at these pictures to try and prove that Erling Haaland's in an offside position. The check now has taken the best part of 3 minutes. And the crowd are becoming rather restless as a result of that. Well, we had none of these issues at the weekend in the FA Cup, but there's no VAR until the 5th round stage of the competition, and actually a lot of people were enjoying the fact that the games were allowed to flow and the referees were actually allowed to officiate the contests. But the lengthier this VAR check takes, the more I'm sure that discussion will be coming up in the back pages tomorrow. Now, Erling Haaland is in an offside position, and Antoine Semenyo's second goal of the night is going to be chalked out. And after a lengthy VAR check, the line goes up for offside. Chris Kavanagh has blown his whistle, and he's being sent over to the monitor. They're warning it offside, so I don't know why the referee needs to have another look at this. So if they've drawn the line and they say it's offside, I'm just not sure. Oh, I think they're having a look here, a potential foul. There's a shove inside the box. Are they having a look at that? Now they zoom back into the pictures of Semenyo. Well, we're getting towards the best part of 5 minutes between Antoine Semenyo putting the ball in the back of the net and this VAR check being cleared up. Now, the score graphic has Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1, because they put the lines up and said offside. The referee, Chris Kavanagh, is just telling the crowd here at St James's Park the decision. Now, we can't actually hear the referee, so we're going to have to go off speculation here. But Erling Haaland was deemed to be in an offside position, and Antoine Semenyo's second goal of the night has been chalked out. He has a conversation with the referee, Chris Kavanagh. It took a full 5 minutes to establish that. And I'm sure the critics of the video technology will say, well, that was far too long to make your mind up. And once you said that Haaland was in an offside position, why did Chris Kavanagh then have to go over to the monitor? That feels a little bit like a waste of time as Nick Voltemade comes on. And so too does Sandro Tonali. Johan Visa coming off for Voltemade. In fact, there's going to be a trio of changes. Anthony Gordon's going to be replaced by Anthony Elanga. And so Newcastle, having survived a bit of a scare, Jacob Ramsey, the other player to come off. So Newcastle making a treble change with just over 20 minutes of this first leg tie to go here, and Joelinton back involved, this time with Bernardo Silva. Joelinton, remember, is on a yellow card here, and tempers are boarding over again for the Newcastle United number 7. I think he's just going to be told in the sternest of words that that's it, you've got all the rope you could possibly get. Any more, then you're going to be off the field of play. He is a player, Joelinton, who holds his heart on his sleeve. That was an awkward back pass in towards the path of Trafford, but that was a Peter Kay-esque havoc from the Manchester City goalkeeper. Newcastle throw taken quickly towards the edge of the box. Voltemade holds it up out towards the path of Elanga, headed down, falls for Tonali, who strikes it first time from inside the D, left footed just wide of the bottom right hand corner by a couple of yards, but Tonali gave that every chance on Newcastle. His first touch was almost a goal scoring touch. Clubbed it with the top of the left boot of his, past James Trafford, but couldn't quite get it past the bottom right hand corner and past the right hand post. And I think Newcastle thought that was a real opportunity to get back on turns in this League Cup semi-final. 20 minutes to go in it. First leg here at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. The return tie is on the 4th of February. Here's Haaland. Plays out towards Ryan, edge of the box. He has a shot on his right foot. Comes off of Lewis Hall, out of play for a throw into Manchester City on the right-hand side towards the edge of the Newcastle United penalty area. Now back towards the halfway and in towards the path of Kushinov. Kushinov to Bernardo Silva. Silva, forward it goes towards Reinders again here for Manchester City. Here's Semenyo on the right, plays it across, was looking to find Reinders inside the penalty area, but one back well by Lewis Hall, gets the better Rodri, but Semenyo manages to intercept and regather for City. Bernardo Silva in towards the path of Rodri. Rodri to Ake. Ake, Doku, left side, driving at Lewis Miley. He's got Elanga for company as well. Doku running at Miley again, plays it back towards Ake, edge of the area. Doku once more for Manchester City. Towards the byline, inside the box, hooks it back towards the near post, but cleared away by Joelinton. One back by Max Allien, who then played it forward, but Harvey Barnes committing a foul. Free kick to Manchester City. Around about 30 yards out from goal, just off centre towards the right-hand side. 72 minutes gone. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1. We're having a look on our monitor at the goal incident again, and Antoine Semenyo, who thought he had his third goal in 2 games since signing from Bournemouth last week. Erling Haaland shaking his head because he never thought he was offside. It was a tight call, much to the annoyance of Pep Guardiola, the Manchester City manager. But they go again here to City. Semenyo on this right-hand side, plays it infield towards the path of Rodri. Joelinton intercepts. Guimaraes forward, who then goes down to the ground. Free kick to Newcastle United and a yellow card to boot for Bernardo Silva, who caught him with his left leg. So the Manchester City captain in the book, the third City player to pick up a yellow card this year. The other two off the field in Nico O'Reilly and Mateus Nunes. So Newcastle, who have looked a little bit brighter since they made that treble change 5 minutes ago. And it is Pope to launch this forward towards the edge of the penalty area. Glance on inside the box. It's Voltemade who heads it back towards Elanga. Inside the area he goes. Hooked it in from the dead ball line on the right hand side. Appeals for a handball against Haaland. And free kick is given in Newcastle's favour. Right hand side, right by the edge of the Manchester City penalty area. Haaland just shading the ball off his left hand. The shade is enough to concede a free kick. Ball to take it, adjacent towards the penalty spot on this left-hand side here for Newcastle United. Jeremy Doku, the sole Manchester City player in the wall. The big bodies lurk towards the back posts, including Nick Voltemade. So Hall over it, Elanga dropping back after giving instructions. Just over a quarter of an hour to go in this time. Newcastle 0, City 1. Newcastle a free kick. Hall to take, left-footed from the right-hand side towards the back post. It's glanced on, but flicked away by Rico Lewis. Now brought down by Semenyo, who's going to punt it forward for Manchester City. And it'll go for Newcastle United throw on the halfway on the left-hand side. And it looks like Cherky's going to be coming on here for Manchester City, who actually, since the second goal's been chalked, had to find themselves, or found themselves, shall I say, on the back foot somewhat. But here comes Haaland, but couldn't quite get a hold of the ball. Joelinton will pick it back up for Newcastle United. Joelinton will spray it out towards the right-hand side. And brought down by Elanga, gets on the inside of Ake. Infield he goes, 25 yards of goal. Plays it out towards the path of Harvey Barnes. Elanga back towards the possession of Barnes again, cleared by Manchester City, out for a Newcastle throw, left hand side, 35 yards out from the Manchester City goal. Play back towards the halfway and towards Botman. Botman towards Tonali. Along that left hand side it goes again, played in towards the path of Elanga. Heavy first touch inside the penalty area, and so it's comfortably gathered in the end by James Trafford in the Manchester City goal. Played out towards Nathan Ake for Manchester City. Infield towards Jeremy Doku. Cherky will be coming on in a couple of moments' time for Manchester City. Bruno Guimaraes conceding a foul on the halfway. He's going to get booked for his troubles. Jeremy Doku, the player, hauled down on this left-hand side. Doku was getting away from the Newcastle skipper. He evaded the challenge of Voltemada, and then Guimaraes clipping him late as he slid in, the Newcastle United skipper. Doku losing momentum, going down to the ground, winning a free kick, and Bruno Guimaraes finding himself in the book. So both skippers here find themselves on a yellow card. Silva and Guimaraes, and it's Jeremy Doku's night that's going to come to a close. He's been a real live wire, set up the opener for Antoine Semenyo, and Cherki's going to come on for the final 13.5 minutes that remain here. Cherki, who's been involved in 3 goals in his 2 League Cup games, 2 goals and assists, with no player remaining in the competition being involved in more this season than Rayan Cherki, as we enter the final 13 minutes of this first leg tie here at St James's. City moving forward down this right-hand side, and Cherki straight into the action. Play back towards the path of Kushinov on the halfway. Here's Alien. Out towards the left-hand side it goes, chested down by Semenyo, who's moved out to this left-hand side here. Bernardo Silva over the top, sending Guimaraes down to the ground, but Tonali doing well to recover the situation for Newcastle. Evading Semenyo, but one back high up by Silva, who was then shoved out of play by Tonali. And so Newcastle get themselves a goal kick. 77.5 gone. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1 here in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg on the Flash Score Live audio commentary. So City winning back high at the field. Haaland out and towards the path of... Here's Cherki. Back towards Silva. Chipped in. But it's going to be cleared away by Andy Alang, who just loses his footing, but luckily no one near him, so he could just recover the situation for Newcastle. Miley clearing it, coming off of Tijani Reinders, and it's going to be a goal kick for Nick Pope to take. 12 minutes to go. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1. Antoine Semenyu's goal in the 53rd minute, the difference between the two sides. We did have a second goal 10 minutes later, but after a lengthy VAR check, it's been ruled out for an offside against Erling Haaland. Ball glanced on by Voltemada, cleared away by Alien for Manchester City, in towards the path for Lewis Hall, who will watch the ball go out for a Newcastle United throw. Left side, middle of the Manchester City half. As we approach the final 11 minutes of normal time here at St James's Park. Newcastle 0, Manchester City 1. The ball will go back in towards the possession of Nick Pope. Pope towards Malik Chow. Chow towards Miley. Miley to Chow. Pope once more. This time he's going to launch it long towards the halfway for Newcastle United. It almost fell for Voltemada. Out now towards Rodri. Rodri forward towards Bernardo Silva for Manchester City. This is Cherki. Cherki back towards Rodri once again. And now Nathan Ake. Cherki once more towards the possession of Max Alien. Rodri back to Cherki inside the centre circle here for Manchester City. Played out towards the right-hand side and towards Rico Lewis. Not had too many touches of the ball since coming on as the Manchester City right back, but the latest touch of his will send possession back to James Trafford between the sticks, out to the left and towards the path of Alien. Rodri towards Kushinov, almost lost out on the halfway, but it's played out towards the right and towards the path of Bernardo Silva, in a more familiar role now. Silva in towards the box, looking to find towards Rico Lewis. Bernardo Silva towards Rodri. Rodri out towards Rayan Cherki. Bernardo Silva back to Kushinov. Turning is Lewis, edge of the penalty area, out towards the path of Rayan Cherki, who has a shot towards the near post. It's scurried through the legs of Nick Pope, but Newcastle managed to get it away. City pushing on the door with 10 minutes to go in the cup tie. Ball goes out towards Rayan Cherki, who has a shot on his right foot from an acute angle on the right-hand side. Scrammed through the legs of Nick Pope, but luckily he got a touch off his left boot to see it away from goal. 9 minutes to go. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. Here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Ball goes out of play. MCINEW with the final touch. It'll be a Newcastle United goal kick. Nobody's less than James's. Hoping for a grandstand finish in this first leg here on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. It's going to be Nick Pope to take this goal kick and launch it long beyond the half. Glanced on by Voltamada. In terms of shots in this game, 9 for Newcastle United compared to the 8 of Manchester City, which when you consider the vast amount of possession that City have had, and they've had 3 shots on target, Newcastle, compared to the 2 of Manchester City. So Newcastle have had nowhere near as much of the ball as Manchester City, but they've been more effective when they've had possession. And they have it on the halfway. Lewis Hall, ball goes out, contest between him and Lewis Hall for him and Rico Lewis for the throw, and then the pair have a little bit of a shoving match as to where the throw should go. It's going to be a City throw, but Lewis and Hall having a shoving match with one another, and Rico Lewis, the City right back, is not happy one bit. Just over 7.5 minutes of normal time to play. There will be a lengthy period of stoppage time come the end of this one because of the lengthy VAR check following the second goal for Antoine Semenyo, which was ruled out by VAR. And it's going to be a yellow card here for Rico Lewis. I think he's just overstepped the mark and said something too much to the referee. So the City substitute finds himself in the book. He's the throw forward towards Erling Haaland. Haaland was looking to find Bernardo Silva. Voltamada holding it up on the halfway, but Lewis is out towards Haaland. Play back, looking to find Alanga, but just couldn't quite get there. Alien back towards the path of James Trafford between the sticks for Manchester City. Driving down this left-hand side here is Alien for Manchester City. Was looking to find Nathan Ake, couldn't quite fall for him, and so Newcastle United are throwing. Seau will play it in towards the path of Sandro Tonali. Tonali in the middle of his own half here for Newcastle. Played out towards the left and towards Lewis Hall. Over the top it goes, and it's in towards the path of Barnes. Barnes through to Voltamada. Voltamada inside the box, but just did a little bit too much and showed too much to have to hit Kushinoff, who was able to clear it away for Manchester City. Here's Malik Chow along the line towards Sven Botman. Botman towards the possession of Lewis Hall. Miley losing out, Lewis winning it back. And now City driving high up the pitch on this right-hand side. It's Rayan Cherki. Cherki has a strike on his left foot, cleared away by Newcastle United. And Lewis Hall will try and get Newcastle out of trouble here. Will float the ball out towards Alanga. Glances on the halfway. City win it back on the half. Alanga up against Nathan Ake. Ake again recovering it for Manchester City, but it falls loosely towards Alanga, who loses out towards Bernardo Silva. Silva towards Rodri. Haaland driving down the middle here. Towards the edge of the area he goes. Chips it through towards Reinders. But Nick Pope read the situation, came sliding out and gets the ball between the sticks of Newcastle United. And it goes now towards Lewis Hall for Newcastle. Plays it forward along this left-hand side. Looking to play through Voltamada. And it's headed on by Max Alien, and comfortably in the end into the arms of James Trafford between the sticks for Manchester City. We head to the final 5 minutes of the cup tie. First leg of this Carabao Cup semi-final. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. City leading courtesy of Antoine Semenyo's 53rd minute goal to 0. But Newcastle rallying as we head towards the final 5 minutes of normal time here. Here's Guimaraes infield towards the path of Sandro Tonali for Newcastle. Here's Lewis Hall in possession, played out towards Barnes, over the top towards Voltamada. Voltamada into the area, but watched off by Kushinoff, who'll clear it away on his right foot. Here's Rodri in possession, but gives it away cheaply to Joe Linton. Guimaraes 25 yards out, twisting, turning. Tonali Plays out to the left and towards Joelinton. Barnes makes an overlapping one, but Joelinton will play the ball in right-footed, looking to find Voltemade around the penalty spot. Cleared away by City. Here's Bernardo Silva. Newcastle appeal for handballs. Possession rebounded in towards his path, but now plays out towards Cherky on this right-hand side. Mature to play out, plays in Haaland. Pope comes out, had to get there, does get there. Came sliding in to clear the ball away. Manchester City throw, right-hand side in the middle of the Newcastle United half. Well, Nick Pope had to play that to perfection, and to his credit, he did. He saw Haaland advancing, he knew he could get there, came sliding out, clearing it out of play for a throw. And Kieran Trippier is going to be the final Newcastle United change. He's going to come on the final 3.5 minutes, and Bruno Guimaraes, who has put in a real shift for Newcastle, is going to be the player to be preferred. Just over 3 minutes plus stoppage time to go, and City are going to make their final change. Nathan Ake is going to head off, and he's going to be replaced by Ryan Aït-Nouri. So 2.5 minutes plus stoppage time to go here at St James's Park in this Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. Antoine Semenyo's goal in the 53rd minute, the difference between the two teams. City with a throw on the right-hand side, play back towards the half. Here's Bernardo Silva in possession, being put under pressure by Voltemade. Plays it back towards Kushinov. Kushinov, who is going to play it back towards his goalkeeper Trafford. Trafford towards the edge of his own penalty area. He's going to launch it forward. Deep beyond the halfway line it goes. Semenyo is going to get there on this left-hand side for Manchester City. Up against Trippier. Now back to the path of Rodri. Rodri towards Ryan Aït-Nouri, who's just come on as a Manchester City substitute. Alanga wins it back though on the half here for Newcastle. Glance up by Tonali. Alanga again, heavy touch. And so Manchester City are going to get a throw on the left-hand side on the halfway. Well, Eddie Howe would love just to take something to the Etihad in 3 weeks' time. Although, if it's only one goal, it is a makeable task, but there'll be no bones made about the difficulty of trying to overturn a deficit. In the home of the 8-time League Cup winners, and of those 8 League Cup trophies, 4 of them have been won under the stewardship of Pep Guardiola, all won in consecutive seasons. In fact, since 2014, they've won this competition 6 times. Of Manchester City, they've been one of the dominant forces since the turn of the century, and certainly over the last decade and a half, they've been the dominant force in this competition. Although they've not won it since 2021, when they beat Tottenham Hotspur effectively behind closed doors at Wembley. There was a small smattering of fans in the stadium as we were heading towards the end of COVID lockdown restrictions. Newcastle about to lose their first Carabao Cup tie in 10 if they can't turn things around here. Trippier towards Voltemade. Voltemade over the top. Marley inside the area. Looking to play it back towards Voltemade, but couldn't quite get his footing together to play that pass through. City clear their lines. They win a free kick. Trippier commits a foul, and he's protesting his innocence to Chris Kavanagh, saying it was a bit more of a coming together rather than anything else. We're having a look at the chance again. Marley couldn't quite get his footing together inside the area. Tried to play it back towards Voltemade, who himself was struggling to hold it up initially, as we enter stoppage time at the end of the second half, and we enter the first of 9 minutes to be added on at the end of the game. Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 1. Antoine Semenyo's goal in the 53rd minute, the difference between the two teams here in the Carabao Cup on the Flash Score Live audio commentary service. Kieran Trippier finds himself in the book for that challenge, much to the dismay of the Newcastle United boss Eddie Howe. They do get themselves a throw. Manchester City raceful with the free kick. Joelinton back in towards the path of Botman, deep inside his own half, out to the left and towards Lewis Hall. plays it forward, and it was almost a pinpoint perfect pass to Harvey Barnes, but City win it back. They have the ball on the halfway out on this right hand side, but they lose out, and it was Sandro Tonali who initially won it back, but City regather it again. Here's Bernardo Silva for Manchester City, looking to weave his way past Sandro Tonali, who dangled a leg out, concedes a free kick, and now the yellow card count is just beginning to tot up a little bit here, because Sandro Tonali is going to join Kieran Trippier in the space of a minute in Chris Kavanagh's notebook. Silva turning, giving a way out, and Tonali frailing his right leg out.